Hey, A10. Okay, you twisted my arm. I'm going to finish the novel today. Oh, okay. How's that for acting? Okay. Chapter 15. The last chapter of Ender's Game, entitled Speaker for the Dead. Right? Just make sure. It is. Speaker for the Dead. All right. All right. Here we go. Let's get to, there's 2 slides for this one. So again, lots of stuff happening. And we're in cleanup mode after the shocking revelation that occurred in chapter 14, and Ender finding out, and the other kids too, for that matter, that the games were real, the battles were real. They were the actual battle was being used as a game to utilize the skills and the abilities of the children to adapt quickly and be more accepting of the content and the strategies and things like that. The games provide the solving problem aspects of gaming. The kids can adapt to that a lot quicker than adults, or most adults anyways. And then they find out it's real. So imagine the games you play right now, and those of you that do play games, especially the what I think you call it peer-to-peer right now, or maybe it's a different designation, but anyways, where you're playing other people online or you know, somewhere else in the world or whatever. You know, what if those games were actually real? That you were the puppeteers, so to speak, of the actual people, or I guess machines or ships or whatever it is. You're actually playing that game for real. You're controlling it. And there was a movie that came out where that was being done, and that possibility where people were being actually controlled by users. And the movie Tron actually is a good example of that, where the users, and there's a whole world in the computer. So if you can imagine a universe within the computer, and the games and that are played there, and all the other functions that computers have, and we, the users, utilize those people or individuals in that universe. And so how do they feel being manipulated and controlled, and so on and so forth? Some are okay with it, some are not. And so the movie shows that divisiveness there, and especially the latest or the Tron sequel, Tron Legacy. There's a rebellion in the computer world, and so they don't like the user controlling them. So the plan is to take control of themselves and have so that the user no longer has control. So very interesting approaches, and it takes us back to the very beginning of the course outline booklet. If you go back to the what science fiction is all about, and it's like that what if scenario. What if we did this? What would be the consequence of that, positive, negative? And then what would happen after that, and the positive, negative consequences, and so on and so forth. So there's always a consequence to every decision that we make. So it goes back to me saying, or even the saying goes, the choices we make dictate the lives we lead. Okay, so Ender made a choice. In order to finish all battles, I'm going to use the little doctor and fire it on the planet. If there's no planet, there's no buggers, end of war, right? But when he found out it was an actual game, just imagine the shock there. So let's get to summaries. Speaker for the dead. Graf is cleared of all charges in regards to the Wigan situation. If you recall, they're not Peter, Valentine, and Ender are no longer identified separately. They're grouped together as a problem or a situation that needs to be dealt with, and so they are called the Wigan situation in a court-martial. Now, we don't see that in the movie, so don't expect to see that in the movie. It was proven in court that Ender would have won the war without training, okay? Which is probably true if you look at all the things that Ender was able to do, capable of doing, even after the monitor was taken out. So Valentine is no longer writing as Demosthenes. Maybe it has something to do with Peter's lock being the accepted terms for peace. You can imagine what she feels like. Like, she was enjoying the fact that Demosthenes was being accepted quite a bit from or by many on the planet Earth, and Peter was upset that his wasn't being considered, but now they are. So, of course, his ego is probably flying through the roof right now. Locke argued Ender should stay on Eris, so exile. Now, that totally contradicts the fact that Peter allegedly loves Ender. But on the other hand, maybe this is like for propaganda use on the planet, keeping Ender in exile would pacify those on the planet, and because then Ender can't come home ever again. At the same time, Locke, or aka Peter, could be protecting Ender by placing him in exile, so then that could be perceived as a form of love for Ender, that he cares about Ender's well-being, and the only way that he can do that is to support exile. Who knows? What do you think? Graf has become Minister of Colonization, plans to colonize the bugger worlds with humans. So now the bugger worlds no longer, well, the buggers don't exist. They've been decimated. The planets are, the existing planets that are still available can be used to colonize and send humans out, so humans can spread out into the universe. His friends returned home as heroes, but Ender remained isolated. Now, is that fair? They were those friends of Ender's. They played that, and they played the same games that Ender did. But being that Ender was the leader of the crew, the captain goes down with the ship, and everyone else is allowed to get on with their lives. Ender would not be blamed for his action, as he was just a child. So now they actually identify him as a child. And if you go back to the discussion between Graf and Anderson, Anderson says to Graf, "You don't even see him as children." And Graf never did. He knows they're children, but as far as he's concerned, they're tools. They're tools to achieve victory. We find out Valentine has come to visit Ender, and she tells him that she argued to have Ender remain in exile. Now, how does that's 3 strikes now, if you think about it. The first time Graf goes to Valentine to try to get Ender back in the game, she writes a letter. It's redacted, and it's presented in a fashion that presents Valentine as, "I've forgotten about you. I don't I don't love you anymore, type thing, and she is totally upset about that. So she uses her alias to snap back and speak against the international fleet. That a third is a honorable title, and then Valentine's brought back in again by Graf to get Ender back in the game, and once again she's used as a tool to get Ender back in the, and she fears that she's never going to be forgiven for that, and Ender is not happy about the fact that Valentine's being is doing it, the bidding of Graf again, and now she argues to keep him in exile. Is that what I said earlier about Peter? Is that a form of love? Is that are they protecting Ender by stating Ender should remain in exile because that's the only way he's going to be able to live on? If Ender returned home, Peter would be in charge of him as he now controls everything there, and that would bring Ender back to square one. Everything that he's accomplished would be non-existent, and Peter would be a nightmare for Ender if he had gone home. This way he could be away in exile, still living, and keep his distance from Peter, and Peter would not have to even affect Ender in any way because Ender would be free to do what he needs to do out in the universe. We don't see that in the movie either, just so you know. Peter had plans for Ender and Valentine, and Valentine intervened as she didn't want Ender to become a pawn of Peter's. So Valentine, it seems like she was protecting Ender from Peter's claws, I guess, just like she did when they were playing Buggers and Astronauts in chapter 2. And Ender finds out about Peter and Valentine's roles in the changes occurring on Earth. So he realizes what the Wiggins situation, the impact it's been having on the planet Earth. Ender has been informed he's going to become governor of the new human colony. Ender wants the new role so he can learn about the Buggers and their past, so that way he believes it will help repay for all he has done. And so by understanding the culture, the actual civilization, he's hoping that by telling their story that they can live on for years to come, and so that this never happens again. Sounds quite like a Shakespearean play, actually. Peter became the hegemon of Earth. Ender became the governor of Ender's world. Valentine became a writer under the name of Demosthenes again, writing about the history of the Bugger Wars, which helped Ender earn Earth's love and respect. So we get the actual Ender's side of the story instead of the propaganda one that Peter was pushing as he rose to power on Earth. Ender wrote his own novel entitled Speaker for the Dead, which became a religion among religions. And that's page 323 in the novel I'm using. That would be the next, the continuing story of the Ender Wiggin scenario. Story. Ender finds a cocoon of a queen and he will take it to a Bugger world to pay for his crimes. And that one's in the movie. So will he be able to bring the civilization back and bring some harmony as well? And maybe humans and buggers alike can get along with each other despite the differences and so on and so forth. So I hope that has helped with your understanding and comprehension of this text. And I hope you enjoyed the novel. I know I have. I enjoy teaching this novel. It's not the way I had hoped to do it, and I know it's not the way you had hoped to take it up either. But from what you were able to accomplish during these unprecedented times, I hope that you have enjoyed it a bit, and look forward to your projects and finish off this year on a positive and constructive note. Take care and be safe.